Picture a chamber so immense it could hold entire civilizations. 15 floating platforms drift in perfect formation, each bearing representatives from empires that conquered galaxies when our ancestors were still chipping stone into tools. On one of those platforms stands a single human woman. Her name is Elena Vasquez, and in approximately 8 minutes, she will deliver a warning that will change the fate of the universe. The question is, will anyone listen? The walls of the cosmic tribunal shimmer with light from 10,000 stars. Crystalline panels bend space-time itself, displaying the sprawling beauty of the galaxy in real time. But Elena isn't looking at the stars. She's looking at the beings who control them. They're the Archon of the Crystalline Dominion, a towering figure of living gemstone that refracts light into impossible colors. There's Ambassador Crethix of the Vorten Swarm, a creature that looks like someone merged a praying mantis with a nightmare and gave a banker soul. And there are 12 others, each representing civilizations older than human written history. Elena is 41 years old. She spent 2 decades preparing for her first contact. None of her training prepared her for this moment. The translator implant behind her ear hums with a dozen alien languages, converting them into words she understands. Most of those words mean the same thing. No. The human presents her appeal once more. The Archon announces, its voice carrying the cold indifference of something that has watched 1,000 species rise and fall. The tribunal has reviewed the evidence. The judgment stands according to established protocol. Elena's hands tremble, but her voice remains steady. Established protocol that treats sentient beings as commodities. We've shown you our cities, our literature, our technological achievements. We've demonstrated complex language, abstract reasoning, and interstellar capability. By every metric in your own codex of sentience, humans qualify as a sovereign species. Crethix shifts on its platform, mandibles clicking with what might be amusement. Your species transmitted its first radio signal 132 of your years ago. It says, each word punctuated by the scraping of its mouth parts. According to cosmic law, any civilization broadcasting for fewer than 2 centuries exists in developmental status. During this period, their stellar territory may be claimed by established powers for integration purposes. The Vorten Collective has legally claimed the Soul Sphere. All protocols have been observed. You're not claiming empty asteroids, Elena says, her voice rising despite her best efforts. You're claiming a system with 9 billion people in it. You're discussing the forced removal of an entire species from their homeworld. Integration. The Archon corrects smoothly. The Developing Species Integration Act ensures that emerging civilizations receive opportunities to contribute to cosmic society. Your population will be transported to designated zones where they may work and evolve. Work. The word hangs in the air like poison gas. Elena has seen the classified reports. The intelligence gathered from a handful of humans already taken as samples by Vorten scouts. Work means mines on airless moons where the temperature drops to absolute zero. Work means factory complexes where humans will never feel natural sunlight again. Work means children separated from parents and scattered across light years of empty space. You mean slavery. Elena says flatly, say it, call it what it is. The chamber erupts in discordant sounds, alien languages expressing shock, amusement, indignation. The Archon raises one crystalline appendage and silence falls like a hammer. The tribunal does not engage in slavery. That practice was abolished 19,000 years ago. The integration program offers primitive species opportunity for accelerated development under the guidance of advanced civilizations. Guidance, Elena repeats, the word bitter on her tongue. She pulls out a datapad, one of the few pieces of human technology they allowed her to bring. I have testimony here from a human named Marcus Chun. He was taken 4 months ago from a colony vessel. Would you like to hear what your guidance looks like? He watched Vorten overseers beat his daughter to death because she collapsed from exhaustion in a lithium extraction facility. She was 14 years old. Crethix makes a dismissive gesture with one of its many limbs. Regrettable. Labor incidents occur. The Vorten Collective maintains rigorous safety standards within acceptable parameters. Something inside Elena's chest cracks. Not her heart breaking. Something harder, something that's been holding back a tidal wave of rage and despair. She looks around the chamber at beings who wield the power to ignite or extinguish stars. Beings who have built empires spanning thousands of worlds. Beings who consider themselves enlightened. They're monsters. Every single one. We're asking you to recognize our sovereignty, Elena says through clenched teeth. We're asking you to leave our system. We're asking for the same rights you claim for yourselves. The vote happened swiftly. One by one, the representatives signal their decision. The crystalline dominion, approve the Vorten claim. The Matherian consciousness, approve. The stellar imperium, approve. 14 ancient civilizations deciding that humanity is too young, too primitive, too insignificant to matter. Only one votes against a measure, a group known simply as the Watchers. Their representative finally speaks, its voice seeming to emanate from everywhere and nowhere. This tribunal makes a grave error. The humans should be granted autonomy. Noted and overruled, the Archon declares, the matter is resolved. The Vorten Collective has lawful authority to proceed with integration of the human species. This tribunal is adjourned. Elena stands frozen as the platforms begin drifting apart. As representatives of 15 civilizations prepare to leave and forget about the insignificant humans they've just condemned, something screams inside her mind to beg, to plead, to throw herself at their mercy. Instead, she finds herself speaking in a voice that doesn't sound like her own. Colder, harder, carrying a weight that makes several representatives pause. You should understand something about humans. Elena says, the words come from somewhere deep inside her, from some ancestral memory of every human who was ever wronged and survived. We remember every slight, every injustice, every wound. We pass down stories of wrongs committed millennia ago. We carry grudges across generations. Krethix laughs, a sound like shattering glass. Is the primitive threatening the tribunal? No, Elena says quietly. I'm warning you. Humans don't forgive. Not truly. We wait. We learn. We adapt. And when we're ready, we return. It might take decades. It might take centuries. But we always return. The Archon's crystalline form dims slightly. Your warning is acknowledged. Human. It changes nothing. Elena looks at each representative in turn, memorizing their forms, their designations, their species. I want you to remember this moment. When the prize comes due, years from now, decade from now, I want you to remember that you were warned. You knew what you were doing was wrong. You knew we begged you to stop. And you did it anyway. Dramatic, one representative mutters. These emotional species always are. Elena activates a recording device, capturing the chamber, the representatives, everything. I'm transmitting this to Earth. Every human alive will see it. Every human yet to be born will see it. They'll know your names. They'll know that you destroyed our world because you could, because it was legal, because you saw us as nothing more than resources to exploit. We are finished here, the Archon declares. Security, escort the human out. Two beings of pure energy materialize, moving toward Elena. She holds up her hand. I'll walk. She straightens her jacket, lifts her chin, and walks toward the exit with all the dignity she can summon. At the doorway, she turns back one final time. Humans don't forgive. You've been warned. The door seals behind her with a sound like thunder. For months later, the Vorten fleet arrives at Earth. They come in numbers that blot out the sun. Massive vessels designed to transport millions across the void. Humanity tries to fight. Their weapons barely scratch the alien hulls. Nuclear missiles are intercepted before detonation. Within 7 days, organized resistance collapses. The integration begins. Humans are collected by the billions, sorted by age and physical capacity, loaded onto transport vessels. Families are separated without ceremony. A father might be sent to an agricultural world, while his sons are designated for factory work 4 sectors away. No records are kept. The Vorten are efficient. Elena has to give them that. Within 3 years, Earth's population drops from 9 billion to fewer than 300 million. Those remaining are the elderly, the infirm, and those designated as cultural archivists to preserve human civilization for academic study. Earth itself becomes a Vorten extraction site. Mining operations strip continents bare. Forests are cleared for alien agriculture. The oceans are seeded with organisms that render the water toxic to terrestrial life. Within a decade, Earth is unrecognizable. Elena Vasquez never sees her homeworld again. She's transported to a detention facility on the edge of Vorten space, kept alive in case the tribunal needs a human representative for future proceedings. They give her a cell with a window facing the stars. She spends her days writing. The Vorten don't care what she writes, assuming it's therapeutic scribbling from a defeated diplomat. Elena fills hundreds of data pads with information. She documents everything she remembers about the tribunal, about the Vorten, about their technology and vulnerabilities. She records every ship design, every piece of alien tech she encountered. Most importantly, she writes down names. The names of every representative who voted to destroy humanity. The names of every Vorten official involved in the integration. The names of every species that stood by and watched. Once a month, she's allowed communication with her family. Her son, Daniel, was sent to a mining outpost. Her daughter, Sophia, is on a factory world. Her husband died during the initial resistance, shot down defending their neighborhood. "I'm documenting everything," she tells Daniel during one brief call. His face on the screen is gaunt, age beyond his 28 years. "I'm recording it all. Make sure the others know. Make sure everyone remembers." "Mom," Daniel says, his voice exhausted. "What's the point? We lost. It's over." "No," Elena says firmly. "It's not over. It's only beginning." They think they've won because they have larger fleets and older civilizations. But they've made a mistake. They've scattered us across the galaxy. They've forced us to learn their technology. They've given us access to knowledge we never would have gained otherwise. They've made us slaves. They've made us survivors, Elena corrects. And survivors adapt. Survivors learn. Survivors remember. She leans closer to the screen, willing her son to understand. "Listen to me, Daniel. You must stay alive. You must have children. You must ensure they know the story. Ensure they know what was taken from us. Ensure they know who took it." "Why?" Daniel asks. "Why carry that burden?" Elena smiles, but there's no warmth in it. Because humans don't forgive. Because one day, when they least expect it, we're going to make them pay for what they've done. It might not be in my lifetime. It might not be in yours. But it will happen. The call ends. Elena returns to her writing. She dies 19 years later, an old woman in a cell far from home. Her last words, recorded by the facility's monitoring system: "Remember everything. Forgive nothing." Her writings are smuggled out by a sympathetic guard, a member of a species once conquered by the Vorten themselves. Those writings spread to the scattered human population, passed hand to hand, copied and recopied, translated into dozens of human languages. They become the foundation of something new, something patient, something dangerous. Marcus Rivera is 11 years old when he first hears the story of Elena Vasquez. He sits in the cramped quarters of a mining station orbiting a nameless planet, surrounded by 30 other humans gathered for what the Vorten call recreation period. An old woman named Grandmother Kim tells the story, her voice crackling with age but steady with purpose. Marcus listens to every word, memorizing it the way he memorizes maintenance codes for mining equipment. When Grandmother Kim finishes, she looks around at the assembled humans and asks the question she asks every time. "What do we remember?" "Everything." The group responds in unison, Marcus's young voice joining the chorus. "What do we forgive?" "Nothing." The Vorten guards outside don't understand rapid, colloquial human speech. They hear rhythms, sounds, what they assume are songs or prayers. They never realize they're listening to lessons, to the careful preservation of memory and purpose. Marcus excels at his assigned work. The Vorten overseers note that the young human shows remarkable aptitude for understanding complex machinery. They promote him to maintenance roles, giving him access to sections of the station most humans never see. He uses that access to study. Every ship that docks Marcus finds a way to observe. He memorizes hull configurations, engine placements, the way Vorten technology functions. He can't read their language, but he understands engineering. Form follows function across species. At night, he returns to human quarters and draws everything from memory. Other humans add their observations. A woman named Dr. Way, formerly a physicist, works out the mathematics behind Vorten faster-than-light drives. A man named Jackson Cole, formerly an aerospace engineer, translates alien designs into human specifications. This happens on mining stations, factory worlds, agricultural colonies across 200 planets. Humans work their assigned jobs with quiet efficiency, never complaining, never causing trouble. The Vorten congratulate themselves on how smoothly the primitive species adapted. They never noticed the networks forming. The Vorten don't pay attention to human cultural practices. When humans sing while working, overseers hear primitive rhythms. They don't hear encoded messages being passed through verses and melodies. When humans gather for remembrance ceremonies, the Vorten see religious observance. They don't see systematic information exchange and long-term coordination. On a factory world designated Vorten 7, a human named Daniel Vasquez celebrates his 22nd birthday by becoming a father. He names his son James. When the boy is old enough to understand, Daniel tells him about his grandmother Elena. She stood before the entire cosmic tribunal. Daniel says, cradling the small boy, she warned them. She said, humans don't forgive. What happened to her? James asks. She died in a prison, Daniel admits, but she ensured we would remember. She wrote everything down, and those writings found their way to us. Everything we know about the tribunal, about the Vorten, about their technology, it started with her. James grows up hearing stories about Earth, a planet he's never seen and likely never will. He hears about oceans and forests, about cities and nations, about a species that reach the stars only to have their hands severed. The stories shape him. Filling him with quiet rage, he learns to hide behind compliance. When James is 17, he witnesses a Vorten overseer beat a human worker to death for working too slowly. The worker had been ill, burning with fever, but the Vorten didn't care. Sick workers are inefficient. Inefficiency is punished. James says nothing, shows no reaction. But that night, he volunteers to join a group working on what they call the project. Every human settlement has a version of the project. Though few know its full scope, James learns that a particular group focuses on weapons development. The Vorten use plasma-based weaponry, explains a woman named Dr. Rivera Johnson, one of the engineers who spent 22 years studying every weapon passing through the factory. We can't build plasma weapons without resources we don't have, but we can build something better. She shows James designs for weapons based on principles the Vorten abandoned millennia ago. Railguns using magnetic acceleration to fire projectiles at relativistic speeds. Missile systems with adaptive guidance computers. Close quarters weapons capable of cutting through Vorten exoskeletons. When James asks, "Not yet," Rivera Johnson says. "We're not ready. We need ships. We need coordination across all human populations. We need to move and communicate without the Vorten knowing." That coordination is being built piece by piece. On an agricultural world, humans discover that certain crops produce fibers Vorten scanning technology can't penetrate. Those fibers are woven into special containers that hide contraband. The containers ship as normal trade goods between Vorten worlds, allowing humans to smuggle materials, information, even people. In a research facility where humans process alien data, a man named Thompson discovers something extraordinary. Vorten communication networks use quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication across light years. The technology is supposedly impossible to hack, but Thompson finds a backdoor. By exploiting a quirk in how entangled particles behave under specific conditions, he can piggyback human messages onto Vorten communications. The discovery means humans can coordinate across the entire galaxy in real time. Every human settlement can share information, plan together, prepare for something the Vorten can't imagine. 32 years after the integration, a human named Marcus Rivera, now in his 40s, makes the breakthrough that changes everything. He spent decades studying Vorten FTL technology, working as a drive mechanic on transport ships. He understands not just how the drives work, but why they work that way. Vorten FTL drives are efficient and safe, designed by a species valuing stability over innovation. Marcus designed something different. Something faster, more agile, more dangerous. His drive system is based on controlled destabilization of the space-time bubble, enabling FTL travel. It's risky, requires constant adjustment, but it can move a ship 4 times faster than anything in the Vorten fleet. He builds a first prototype in secret, using materials scavenged from a dozen sources, assembled in a hidden workshop inside an asteroid. The test flight lasts 19 seconds before the drive burns out. But it works. Marcus transmits the specifications using Thomson's communication hack. Within months, human engineers across the galaxy are refining and improving the design. The ships come next. Humans work in shipyards, building Vorten vessels, learning every detail of their construction. They work in salvage operations, stripping decommissioned ships, hiding useful components. They work in asteroid mines, hollowing out massive rocks that can be converted into hidden shipyards. It takes decades. A generation of humans is born and raised in captivity, taught from birth that their purpose is not just to survive, but to prepare. They learn Earth's history with the fervor of religious doctrine. They study their enemies with the dedication of soldiers who know their work will outlive them. They build their tools with the patience of craftsmen, preparing for a war generations away. The Watchers observe all of this with interest. They are an ancient species, so old their origins are lost time. They voted against humanity's subjugation, the only tribunal member to do so, and they haven't forgotten the humans. A Watcher named Observer of Paths begins leaving caches of advanced technology where humans can find them. A mining crew discovers a container with data cores on energy shielding. A salvage team finds abandoned equipment teaching advanced material science. The Watchers never reveal themselves directly, but their gifts accumulate over the decades. James Vasquez, now a respected figure in the underground resistance, receives a communication to the quantum network when he's 51 years old. A simple message that changes everything. The time approaches. Begin consolidation. The remembrance movement, as humans call their underground resistance, has grown to include nearly every human in the galaxy. Tens of billions, scattered across hundreds of worlds, all connected by shared history and shared purpose. Consolidation begins quietly. Humans start requesting transfers to specific worlds, citing family reunification or job opportunities. The Vorten approve these requests without suspicion. Why would they care where their labor force is located? What the Vorten don't notice is the pattern. Humans are concentrating around key strategic locations, moving closer to major Vorten trade routes, communication hubs, military installations. In hidden shipyards, now numbering dozens across remote asteroid fields and dead systems, humans build their fleet. The ships are unlike anything in the galaxy. Fast, maneuverable, heavily armed with weapons combining human innovation and alien technology. Most importantly, they're crewed by people with nothing to lose and everything to avenge. Admiral James Vasquez, grandson of Elena Vasquez, stands on the bridge of humanity's flagship. The ship has no official name yet. That will come later, after they prove what it can do. Around him, the command crew works with quiet efficiency, faces reflecting his own determination. All ships report ready. His communications officer announces 1,800 vessels standing by across 51 systems. James looks at the display showing every human ship's location. Decades of preparation led to this moment. Generations of suffering and patient endurance built toward this single point in time. Send a message. James orders to all ships, all stations, all human settlements. Use Elena Vasquez's words. The message goes out across the quantum network, reaching every human in the galaxy simultaneously. Humans don't forgive. The warning was clear. The price comes due today. On Vorten Prime, homeworld of the species that enslaved humanity, the morning dawns like any other. The Vorten go about their business, managing their empire, counting profits, never imagining they're living the last peaceful day their civilization will ever know. On mining stations and factory worlds and agricultural colonies and research facilities, humans simply stop working. At the exact same moment, synchronized across light years, they walk away from their posts. They gather their families. They move to designated safe zones, and they wait for their fleet to arrive. The Vorten overseers try to restore order, but the humans aren't rioting or fighting. They're simply leaving. By the time the Vorten realize something is catastrophically wrong, entire human populations have vanished from their sensors, hidden in shielded facilities they've been preparing for decades. In the hidden shipyards, Marcus Rivera sits in the engine room of humanity's first warship, monitoring the drives he spent his life perfecting. He's 69 years old, gray-haired and weary, but his hands are steady on the controls. All systems optimal. He reports to the bridge. Drive cores at full power. We're ready to make history. Admiral Vasquez smiles grimly. Then let's remind the galaxy why you should never enslave a species that knows how to hold a grudge. All ships, engage FTL drives. Target, Vorten Prime. It's time they learn the cost of their crimes. The human fleet vanishes from their hidden positions, leaving only the fading signatures of their FTL drives, and the beginning of a war that will reshape the galaxy. The first sign something has changed comes to Ambassador Crethix during his morning review of labor efficiency reports. The old Vorten administrator has served the collective for 87 years, priding himself on maintaining optimal productivity. He notices the anomaly immediately. Human output has dropped to zero across 19 mining stations. Not reduced, not diminished. Zero. Crethix's mandibles click with irritation as he accesses surveillance feeds. The screens show empty workstations, abandoned equipment, dormitories devoid of life. The humans are simply gone. He checks security logs. Nothing unusual. No breaches, no alarms, no signs of mass movement. Impossible, Crethix mutters. 11 billion workers don't just vanish, but they have. Across Vorten space, every human has disappeared within a 7-hour window. The collective's economy, grown dependent on human labor over the decades, begins hemorrhaging immediately. Mining operations halt. Factories stand idle. Agricultural worlds go untended. The Vorten allowed humans to become the foundation of their infrastructure. Now that foundation has crumbled. Within hours, the collective's ruling council convenes an emergency session. This is coordinated. The High Overseer declares, her massive form filling the chamber center. The humans couldn't accomplish this without outside assistance. Someone must be helping them. It doesn't matter who's helping them. Another council member snaps. What matters is finding them and restoring order. The economic impact is already catastrophic. They have no idea how catastrophic it's about to become. The human fleet emerges from FTL space at the edge of the Vorten home system 4 days after the disappearances begin. 1,800 ships materialize in coordinated formation. Perfect positioning. Weapons armed. They make no attempt to hide. They want to be seen. On Vorten Prime, defense stations detect the incoming fleet and sound alerts across the planet. Military vessels scramble to intercept. The Vorten military, though they haven't fought a real war in centuries, still maintains powerful fleets designed to enforce collective authority. Admiral James Vasquez watches the Vorten ships approach on his tactical display. 320 of them, battleships and cruisers, each larger than any human vessel. According to conventional thinking, humans are outnumbered and outgunned. All ships. Vasquez transmits, remember your training. Remember why we're here. Remember what they took from us. The Vorten fleet commander opens a communication channel. Unidentified vessels, you are violating collective space. Power down your weapons and prepare for boarding or you'll be destroyed. Vasquez's response is simple. No. The battle that follows rewrites galactic understanding of warfare. The Vorten ships are powerful, but designed by a species that's known peace for generations, built for intimidation and suppression of inferior forces. The human ships are built by survivors who studied their enemies for half a century and incorporated everything they learned. Human vessels dart through space with impossible agility, their drives allowing maneuvers that should tear ships apart. They don't fight like the Vorten expect. They don't form battle lines or engage in traditional ship-to-ship combat. They swarm, using tactics adapted from Earth's ancient naval warfare, combined with innovations born from desperation. A Vorten battleship targets a human cruiser with plasma batteries that should vaporize it. The ship's shields, technology gifted by the Watchers and refined by human engineers, absorb the impact and redistribute the energy. Before the Vorten can fire again, 3 human frigates close to point-blank range and launch railgun volleys that punch through the alien ship's hull like tissue paper. They're faster than our tracking systems. A Vorten gunnery officer reports in panic. I can't acquire lock. Adjust fire patterns. The fleet commander orders. Saturation bombardment. Fill space with plasma. They can't dodge everything. But the humans aren't dodging. They're predicting. Every human vessel has access to decades of compiled data on Vorten tactics, weapon systems, strategic doctrine. They know how the Vorten will respond before the Vorten themselves know. The battle lasts 9 hours. When it ends, the Vorten have lost 70% of their defending fleet. Humans have lost 42 ships. As surviving Vorten vessels retreat toward the planet, Vasquez opens a broadcast on all frequencies. People of the Vorten Collective, this is Admiral James Vasquez of the human fleet. 50 years ago, your leaders came to Earth. They took our world. They scattered our people across the galaxy. They treated us as property, as resources to exploit. Today, we've come to collect the debt you owe. On Vorten Prime, billions watch as human ships take positions around their planet. The vessels don't bombard cities or attack civilian targets. Instead, they systematically destroy every orbital station, every satellite, every piece of infrastructure allowing the collective to function. Communication networks collapse. Trade routes are severed. Space elevators connecting surface to orbit are dismantled piece by piece. We're not here to exterminate you, Vasquez continues. We're here to teach you what you taught us, how it feels to be helpless, how it feels to watch your civilization dismantled, how it feels when those you consider beneath you prove to be your equals. Ambassador Krethix watches the broadcast from his administrative center 3 systems away. His entire body trembles with rage and something he's never experienced before. Fear, the primitives, the laborers, the resources. They become an existential threat. The collective sends calls for assistance to the Cosmic Tribunal, but the Tribunal is slow to respond. Ancient bureaucracies don't move quickly, and many tribunal species see the human attack as an internal Vorten problem. Some are even pleased to see the collective humbled. The Vorten have grown arrogant, and there are old grievances. Over following weeks, the human fleet doesn't invade Vorten Prime. They don't need to. They simply stay in orbit, a constant reminder of their presence, while other human ships strike at Vorten holdings across space. Trade stations are captured or destroyed. Communication relays are seized. Supply lines are cut. The collective's economy doesn't slow. It stops. The Cosmic Tribunal convenes an emergency session for the first time in 300 years. All 15 member species send their highest representatives. And for the first time in the Tribunal's recorded history, they invite a 16th party to address them. Admiral James Vasquez stands in the same spot where his grandmother stood 50 years earlier. But circumstances couldn't be more different. This time, a fleet of 2,000 human warships waits just outside the system. This time, the galaxy has watched the Vorten Collective crumble. This time, when Vasquez speaks, they listen. Honored Tribunal members, Vasquez begins, his voice carrying the weight of decades of suffering. I come before you not as a supplicant, but as representative of a civilization you tried to erase. My grandmother stood in this chamber and warned you. She said humans don't forgive. She said the price would come due. That day has arrived. The Archon of the Crystalline Dominion, the same being who presided over humanity's condemnation, shifts uncomfortably. The Vorten situation was regrettable, but handled within bounds of cosmic law. The Tribunal sees no reason for further conflict. Cosmic law. Vasquez repeats, his voice hardening. Let's discuss your laws. The Developing Species Integration Act, was created 9,000 years ago, ostensibly to help emerging civilizations integrate into cosmic society. But what it really does is provide legal cover for slavery. He activates a holographic display filling the chamber's center. Images appear. Documentation of species worked to extinction. Cultures eradicated. Civilizations disappeared into labor forces of more powerful empires. Since the Act's creation, 52 species have been integrated. Only 14 of those species still exist as independent civilizations. Would you like to know what happened to the other 38? The tribunal knew. Vasquez continues. Every member species here has access to the same records I'm showing you. Yet for 9,000 years, you maintained this law. Do you know why? Because it was profitable. Because it was convenient. Because you could take what you wanted from weaker species and call it legal. A representative from the Etherian consciousness, a being of flowing liquid contained in a force field, speaks up. The human raises valid concerns about historical injustices, but bringing them before the tribunal is the proper method. This military posturing serves no purpose. Military posturing? Vasquez laughs without humor. This isn't posturing. This is the only language you understand. Let me be explicit about humanity's demands. Every species that voted to enslave us will pay reparations. You will open your archives and provide documentation of every decision, every vote, every policy that led to our destruction. You will submit to independent investigations of your treatment of all species under your authority. And you will dismantle the Developing Species Integration Act. Impossible, several tribunal members say simultaneously. Nothing is impossible when your alternatives are worse. Vasquez replies. The holographic display changes. The tribunal members see information they thought was buried and protected. Secret intelligence files. Hidden financial records. Documentation of crimes violating even their own laws. The crystalline dominion conducting genetic experiments on integrated species. The Metherian consciousness harvesting rare biological materials without consent. The stellar imperium fighting a quiet war of extermination against a minor species whose system contains valuable resources. On and on the revelations go. How did you obtain this information? The Archon demands, its crystalline structure flickering with distress. We've been in your systems for years. Vasquez says simply, every ship we repaired, every computer network we maintained, every communication relay we serviced. You scattered us across the galaxy and gave us access to all your infrastructure. Did you really think we were just working? We were learning. We were listening. We were recording everything. A representative from the Stellar Imperium tries to salvage the situation. Even if these allegations are accurate, bringing them public will destabilize the entire cosmic community. The chaos would affect billions across thousands of worlds. Yes, Vasquez agrees. It will, unless the tribunal acts first. You have a choice. Work with us to reform these systems peacefully, or we broadcast everything we know to every species in the galaxy and let them decide how to respond. How many of your subject species will remain loyal when they learn the truth? The chamber erupts in argument. Species accuse each other of worse crimes. Alliances lasting millennia show strain. Vasquez simply stands in the chaos's center, waiting. The Watchers, silent throughout the proceedings, finally speak. Their representative's voice seems to emanate from the fabric of space itself. The tribunal will vote on the human proposals. A simple majority will suffice. This is absurd. The Archon protests. We cannot allow a primitive species to dictate terms to civilizations predating their recorded history. They are no longer primitive, the Watcher replies. They have demonstrated capacity for learning, adaptation, and fighting for survival. These are the qualities we claim to value in all sentient species. The question is whether we meant what we said, or whether our laws only apply to those too weak to challenge us. The vote takes 4 days. During that time, human ships appear at key locations throughout tribunal space. They don't attack, but their presence is unmistakable. A reminder that humanity isn't making empty threats. In the end, 9 tribunal species vote in favor of humanity's demands. For vote against, the Watchers, as always, vote with humanity. The measures pass. But Vasquez isn't finished. "There's one more thing," he says when voting concludes. "Those species that voted against these reforms, we have a special message for you." The holographic display activates again, showing the military readiness of the human fleet, locations of hidden shipyards, the full extent of their technological capabilities. It's an intelligence report that should be classified at the highest level. Vasquez is broadcasting it to the entire tribunal. "We want you to know exactly what you're facing," Vasquez explains, "because we're giving you a choice. Comply with the tribunal's decision or fight. But if you fight, understand what that means. The Vorten were the architects of our enslavement. You were the enablers. We've already broken the architects. The enablers will be easier. The 4 species that voted against, the Crystalline Dominion, the Matherian Consciousness, the Draelix Hegemony, and the Stellar Imperium, within a week, all send diplomatic envoys to negotiate directly with humanity. They agree to the tribunal's terms and add their own additional reparations. The Archon itself requests a private meeting with Admiral Vasquez. The crystalline being looks diminished somehow. Its light less brilliant than Vasquez remembers from old recordings. "I remember your grandmother," the Archon says. "I dismissed her warning as primitive emotion. I was wrong." "Yes," Vasquez replies without sympathy. "You were. I want you to understand. I believe we were acting in humanity's best interest. We thought you needed guidance, protection from yourselves. You thought we were inferior," Vasquez corrects. "You thought you could use us and discard us, and we'd never be able to respond. You were wrong about that too. What happens now?" the Archon asks. "Will your people be satisfied with these reforms, or is this merely the beginning of a larger war?" Vasquez is silent for a long moment. "That depends on you, on all of you. If the tribunal honors its commitments, if reforms are real and lasting, then we'll have peace. But if you try to return to old ways, if you think you can wait us out and go back to exploiting weaker species, then you'll learn just how patient humans can be. We waited 50 years for this. We can wait another 50, if needed. The reforms begin immediately. The Developing Species Integration Act is repealed. All species currently under protective custody are granted independence and reparations. A new oversight committee forms with equal representation from major and minor species to prevent future abuses. But real changes happen in ways that can be codified into law. The Cosmic Tribunal's authority has been challenged and found wanting. Across the galaxy, subject species look at humanity's example and begin asking questions about their own situations. Some demand reforms. Others demand independence. The carefully constructed order keeping tribunal species in power for millennia begins to crack. The Vorten Collective, meanwhile, splinters completely. Ambassador Crethix, the administrator who oversaw human labor operations, is arrested by his own people and handed over to human authorities. He stands trial in a courtroom on a reclaimed Earth, charged with crimes against sentient beings. The trial lasts 7 months. Thousands of humans testify about their treatment under Vorten rule. Crethix listens to stories of families torn apart, of casual cruelty, of systematic dehumanization. At the end, when asked if he has anything to say in his defense, the old Vorten can only repeat what he told himself for decades. It was legal. Everything we did was legal. The judge, a human woman born on a mining station who watched her parents work themselves to death, looks at Crethix with cold eyes. Legality is not morality. You are behind law while committing atrocities. The law is now caught up to you. Crethix is sentenced to life imprisonment, working in conditions similar to those he imposed on humans. It's poetic justice, though some argue it's too lenient. Earth itself begins the long process of recovery. The Vorten strip the planet of resources and poison its ecosystems. Restoration will take generations, but humans approach the task with the same patient determination they showed preparing their revenge. Marcus Rivera returns to Earth to help with terraforming efforts. He's 73 years old now, ancient by standards of the life he's led. He stands in what was once a forest in South America, looking at scorched earth and thinking about all the years his family was denied this world. His grandson, David, works beside him, planting gene-modified trees designed to rapidly restore soil. Do you think we did the right thing? David asks. It's a question he's asked before, but this time the context is different. Now they're looking at consequences of their actions. I think we did what we had to do, Marcus replies. Tribunal species spent millennia building a system benefiting them at everyone else's expense. Someone had to break that system. It happened to be us. But look at the chaos. David gestures to holographic news feeds showing protests and revolutions across a dozen systems. The galaxy is coming apart. No, Marcus says firmly. The galaxy is being put together properly. For the first time, minor species have a voice. For the first time, the powerful are being held accountable. That's not chaos. That's justice. Admiral Vasquez, now recognized as leader of humanity's military forces, addresses a human population in a galaxy-wide broadcast 6 months after tribunal reforms are implemented. We set out to make them pay for what they did to us. Vasquez says, we've accomplished that goal. The Vorten Collective is broken. The tribunal has been reformed. Laws that allowed our enslavement have been repealed. But our work isn't finished. We have an opportunity now to build something better, to create a cosmic community where no species will ever suffer what we suffered. That's the real victory. Not revenge, but transformation. Not everyone agrees with Vasquez's vision. A faction of humans led by hardliners who suffered the worst abuses argues for continuing military campaigns. They want to see every tribunal species reduced to the same powerlessness humanity experienced. They deserve it. A woman named Commander Rodriguez argues in public forums. Every single one benefited from our suffering. They should feel what we felt. But Vasquez and the majority of human leaders argue against perpetual warfare. If we become what they were, we've lost everything that makes us human. Vasquez says, we fought for justice, not for the right to become oppressors ourselves. The debate rages across human communities, a reflection of trauma that decades of enslavement inflicted. In the end, humanity chooses a harder path. They will pursue justice, but not vengeance. They will hold tribunal species accountable, but not destroy them. They will build a better system, not just tear down the old one. The Watchers observe all this with approval. Their representative meets with Admiral Vasquez one final time before humanity begins establishing its permanent place in cosmic society. We voted against your enslavement because we saw what you could become, the Watcher says. Not conquerors or destroyers, but something more valuable, catalyst for change. You've exceeded even our expectations. Why didn't you help us earlier? Vasquez asks. You could have intervened. You could have stopped the Vorten. If we had, you would have remained dependent on us, the Watcher replies. You needed to save yourselves. You needed to prove to the galaxy and to yourselves that you were capable of standing equal to any species. Now you have. The meeting ends, and Vasquez returns to his fleet. There's still work to do, reparations to collect, systems to patrol, a new order to build and maintain. But for the first time since humanity reached for the stars, they're doing it as free people, as equals, as a species that earned its place through courage and patience. The price has come due, and the galaxy has paid it. Now comes a harder task, ensuring the same debts never accumulate again. 23 years after humanity's first strike against the Vorten, a new species is discovered on the galactic rim. The Talaran are just beginning to send radio signals into space. Their civilization is at roughly the same level humanity was at first contact. The Cosmic Assembly, as the Reformed Tribunal now calls itself, debates how to approach them. Some argue for immediate contact. Others want to wait and observe. Vasquez listens to the arguments, remembering another debate half a century earlier. We should extend peaceful contact, Vasquez says when his turn comes. We should recognize their sovereignty over their home system immediately. We should offer assistance without conditions, and we should make absolutely clear that they have the same rights as any other species in the galaxy. But the old protocols required a probationary period, a representative from one of the former tribunal species' objects, some evaluation of their readiness. Vasquez's response is quiet but firm. The old protocols enslaved my people and 51 others. The old protocols are why we fought a war. If we're returning to those ways, even in spirit, then we've learned nothing. The Assembly votes unanimously to extend recognition to the Talaran. First contact is made by a joint team including humans, watchers, and representatives from a dozen other species. The message is simple. Welcome to the cosmic community. You are our equals. We offer friendship without conditions. The Talaran, overwhelmed but grateful, accept. They will join the Cosmic Assembly as full members. Their voice equal to species that have been traveling the stars for millennia. It's a statement of principles. A demonstration that the new order is fundamentally different from what came before. On Earth, in a memorial to Elena Vasquez, someone added a new inscription below her warning to the old tribunal. It reads, "The price was paid. The lesson was learned. The future begins here." Admiral Vasquez visits the memorial on what will be his last trip to Earth. He's 76 years old, still sharp, but feeling the weight of his years. He stands before his grandmother's memorial and speaks to her as if she can hear him. "We did what you asked," he says quietly. "We remembered. We didn't forgive. We made them pay for what they did. But more importantly, we made sure it couldn't happen again. Not to us. Not to anyone. I think that's what you really wanted. Not revenge, but change." He places a hand on the stone, feeling carved words beneath his fingers. "The galaxy is different now. Grandmother, better. It's not perfect. We still have problems, still have conflicts. But the fundamental things have changed. No more slavery hiding behind legal language. No more powerful species treating weaker ones as resources. Everyone has a voice now. Everyone matters." Vasquez leaves the memorial and returns to his work in the Cosmic Assembly. There are always new challenges, always problems to solve. But they're the problems of free people working together, not the problems of slaves struggling to survive. Humanity has come home, not just to Earth, but to a place in the galaxy they earned through suffering and determination. They were pushed to the edge of extinction and came back stronger. They were told they were primitive and proved themselves equal to the oldest civilizations. They were enslaved and freed themselves while freeing others. Most importantly, they were warned that their actions would have consequences, and they made sure those consequences came due. 50 years after the war's end, students across the galaxy study what historians call the Awakening, the period when humanity refused to accept their fate and changed the cosmic order forever. They learn about Elena Vasquez, who stood before the tribunal and delivered a warning no one believed. They learn about Marcus Rivera, who spent his life perfecting technology that would set his people free. They learn about Admiral James Vasquez, who led a scattered, enslaved species to victory against impossible odds. But most importantly, they learn the lesson that reverberates through every classroom, every assembly chamber, every diplomatic negotiation. When you wrong a species, when you push them to the edge, when you dismiss their warnings and their pain, you better hope you finish the job. Because if they survive, they'll remember. They'll adapt. They'll come back. And humans, as the galaxy learned to its cost, don't forgive. The lesson echoes through cosmic civilization for generations. In the Cosmic Assembly, whenever conflict arises between powerful and weak species, someone inevitably references the human example. Remember what happened to the tribunal, they say. Remember what happens when the powerful abuse the weak. It becomes the foundation of the new order, not fear of human military might, though that remains considerable, but fear of what any species could become if pushed too far, if their warnings are ignored, if their suffering is dismissed. The old tribunal species learned that lesson the hard way. They paid the price, and in paying it, they created a galaxy where such prices would never need be collected again. Because now, everyone remembers. Humans don't forgive. The warning was clear, and the price always comes due. For more such thrilling science fiction stories, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Starborn Tales.